This Sunday.
The Friends are coming! The Friends are coming!
Sons of Liberty, history's new scripted drama.
Hand over the tray to Samuel Adams and John Hancock.
The untold story of a group of rebels.
These are our streets!
Who brought an empire to its knees.
These people are asking for a war. We're going to give them one.
Let's show them what we're made of. Fire!
A 3-night special event, Sons of Liberty. Premieres Sunday at 9, 8 Central on History.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
I love this day. I had some vacation time to burn, so I took last week off. I love today. Not because guys are getting fired. I hate that. They got kids. Bums me out. But here we go. Playoffs set. Adam Schefter says, among others, Harbaugh to Michigan. An hour from now, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. Jim Harbaugh is known for that saying as a kid in the backseat of his car. The dad would turn to John and Jim Harbaugh and say, even though they were in tough times economically, who's got it better than us? You've heard that story. Well, today, who's got it better than us? Here we go. Big bowl game starting, coach is moving, coach is getting fired. Who's got it better than us? Let me start with this. Of the many things I've got to get to, the Jets have fired their GM and head coach, Atlanta's fired their head coach, and Chicago just fired their GM and head coach. Divorces always feel good. Yeah! Finally got rid of her. She was dragging me down. In the moment, divorces feel good. It's okay. A lot of people are divorced. I am. But you start doing it with regularity, and people with options don't take you seriously. The New York Giants, they're not going to make the playoffs either. 6-10. They're going to keep their GM and head coach. In fact, the New York Giants have had 3 GMs in 36 years. Their GM, Jerry Reese, he's whiffed too. How about that great first-round running back, David Wilson, out of the league? Prince Amukamara, the cornerback, never lived up to the hype. First-rounder Justin Pugh, underwhelming. Weak in the offensive line, average to below average at linebacker. Giants will retain him. The Jets are going to look for another general manager and another head coach who will hire more coordinators. Go ahead, get that divorce. It's all her fault. But a woman with options is not going to be interested in a 4-time loser. Today feels great. Yeah, it's terrible. Go look at Jerry Reese cross town. His first-round underwhelming picks. Tom Coughlin, again, won't make the playoffs. Feels great. All her fault. Not me. But what top candidate in this league is going to want that Bear GM or Jet GM job? What top coach is going to want a Raider GM job? Brown head coaching job? Be careful celebrating today as you get rid of another coach who will hire more coordinators and another GM and assistant GM. People with options aren't interested in chaos. Second story, Johnny Manziel, fined by the Cleveland Browns. He had a big party. Lots of teammates went to it. Then they either didn't show up or were late for team meetings. Shocker. Gang, he told you what he was. If you didn't want to listen to him, it's a you problem. Colin, he's the next Russell Wilson. What did I say? He's shorter. He's not as thick. He's not as coachable. He's not as smart. He doesn't have Russell Wilson's arm. Russell Wilson ran a 4.5, 5.40 at the combine. Johnny Manziel ran a 4.68. Derek Carr ran a 4.69. Johnny Manziel's not Russell Wilson. He's not as smart. He's not as coachable. He's not as mature. He's an entitled oil money frat boy. Plus, in the AFC North, like the NFC North, it's all cold outdoor stadiums. Baltimore, Cincy, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. You get a 5'11 guy who throws off platform with an average arm? You need Flacco, Stafford, Rodgers, Big Ben. The Browns keep drafting average-armed quarterbacks. And in this case, he's not coachable. All you parents know something, that when you become a parent, you can no longer spend discretionary income on video games. You got to spend them on diapers and education. And when you're a 21-year-old frat boy and you become a franchise quarterback, the league owns your weekends. But that's not what Johnny Manziel thinks. Remember what he said this summer? Weekends are me time.
That's 2 days out of the week, and there's 5 to 6 other days that I'm here at this building going through my playbook, working out.
No, they're not your time. They are for your loser friends. Remember those guys?
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Just answer it or not.
Yeah, weekends for those losers, it is their time. You're a franchise quarterback. It's the Cleveland Browns' time. Entitled, oil money, frat boy. He is everything he told you he was. And the Browns, once again, wouldn't listen. All right. I stayed the last several days, about 4, at a hotel in Florida. And I'm not sure what it was, but there were a lot of Michigan folks there. A lot of blue shirts, yellow M's. And they would come up to me. What are you hearing? And I'm like, what are you hearing? And they're like, hey, Jim Harbaugh's coming to Michigan. What do you think? And I said, well, I like traditional powers. I always have. I don't like TCU getting to the national championship. I never really enjoyed, and I hate to say it, but the Colorado Rockies World Series. I know they did in Denver. I respect that. I get it. But I want the Yankees and Duke basketball and the Lakers and Ohio State to dominate. I've been rooting for Tennessee to be great for years. I couldn't be happier. The Dallas Cowboys are in the playoffs. So are the Packers, the Patriots, and Peyton. I like that. So, yes, I'm happy as a college football fan that Michigan basically turned their program over to Jim Harbaugh. I'm very happy. I want Michigan to be relevant. The sport's better when they are. I also want to see Tennessee get it going, Texas, Oklahoma, and USC. I root for traditional powers. Remember when I started here 10 years ago? And I kept saying year after year, you don't want Belmont to win during March Madness. You think you do, but if Belmont beats Duke, then you know what you're stuck with? Belmont for the next week. You want Belmont to give Duke a close game, but you want Duke to win, and TV ratings prove it. Michigan football is back today. They're not going to win a national title immediately. They don't have the right quarterback yet. He's not special. And they've only got 12 scholarships this year. So Jim Harbaugh is going to have to win with somebody else's players. And he will. He'll upgrade. But they're not ready to beat Ohio State. And they may not be ready to beat Ohio State for a couple of years. But today, Michigan football is back. And that is a very, very good thing. Now, a lot of you, and I stayed off social media, but according to my staff, Colin, you taunted those Michigan fans. They
Where
were
Colin was
you.
wrong.
Yeah, I'm 0 for 1 this year.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It is Black Monday in the NFL. Jets fired their head coach and their GM. So did the Bears. Atlanta got rid of Mike Smith. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why everybody says Rex Ryan would be a perfect fit in Atlanta. Wait a minute. They just fired a defensive-minded head coach. I mean, Rex Ryan and Mike Smith are the same guy. Defensive-minded guys, had momentum, got it into the playoffs, lost momentum, team got lousy fast, several blowout losses. It's the same guy. The difference is I think Mike Smith is better with offense than Rex Ryan. All right, my next guest is not only a radio host, but a former NFL scout. Works for 95.7 The Game, John Middlekauff, joining us now in the Herd on ESPN Radio. John, you look at Harbaugh and you look at this league. It is hard to win games, okay? Chuck Noll, Marv Levy, Bill Parcells, John, are 55% winners. Harbaugh won 71%. Is Trent Baalke, did this come down to simply he didn't like Jim Harbaugh's personality?
Yeah, Colin, I think it's more than just Trent Baalke. I think it started at the top with the ownership. Jim and him just didn't get along. Jed York, that being the managing partner right now. And it just became a situation. I mean, we've really known about it since the Combine last year when the story was leaked that they were going to potentially trade him to Cleveland. I mean, can you imagine if a story like that came out in Seattle or Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin? You would immediately come out and say, no way we are trading our coach. Jed York walked down to Jim Harbaugh and asked him if he'd be interested in coaching Cleveland. So they pretty much, and then the stories that broke going into the first game at Dallas and he was losing the locker room, the constant leaks from management to kind of undercut Jim Harbaugh. They tried to sabotage Jim from the start, and Jim is such a good coach. With all the injuries, they still went 8-8. I mean, you look around the league, Rex Ryan, Mark Trestman, Mike Smith, they had to go. Jim with tons of injuries. His two best players, Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, I'm talking all pros, did not play. And he still went 8-8 with a quarterback. I mean, Jim's not the one throwing balls over wide receivers' heads or right into Richard Sherman's hands. And it's pretty mind-boggling.
We don't know much about Trent Baalke. He is putting his career on a table to be judged now because we know Harbaugh is going to win, and he's going to win pretty quickly, and he's going to win big at Michigan. That goes without saying. It's going to happen. Do you believe – what do we know about Trent Baalke? Is he liked? Does he talk? What does the media know about him? I mean, what's the feeling today about him?
Well, I think today, and they have a press conference, him and Jed York at 1 o'clock out here in San Francisco or down in Santa Clara. I think it's really more pointed at Jed York. I mean, everyone looks at it like his decision. Trent Baalke inside the profession is very well respected. I think he's a really good GM. He's done a good job. He's known as an absolute grinder. I think him and Jim, I know they did butt heads a little bit, but I think they had a mutual respect because Trent, there's not a GM in the league that attended more college games throughout this season. I mean, you talk about a film junkie. This guy is a football guy. He didn't come up like a capologist. He's not a money guy. He is a nuts and bolts football guy. So I think him and Jim, while I'm sure they disagreed, and from what I've heard, they've disagreed really from that first year on. That's just because they're hard-headed, stubborn guys. That's natural. Yeah. In the NFL, there's no growth out of a little confrontation. But as a personnel guy and as a front office, you're only as strong as your head coach. And everyone said for years in the 2000s, the 49ers were just stacked with talent, but they never won. And then they got Jim, who you could argue his greatest strength was acquiring elite assistant coaches. For a guy that, they're kind of, the front office is trying to say that no one likes Harbaugh, it sure didn't seem like his assistant coaches hated him. None of them left. I mean, Vic Fangio is arguably the best defensive coordinator in the league, has been with him from day one. Greg Roman became an idiot this year, but he wasn't the previous 3 years when they were going to NFC Championship. So, whoever they hire, I mean, the bar is going to NFC Championship games, winning the NFC West. That's the standard Jim set. They can't go 8-8 next year. People are going to be like, what are you doing here?
Well, yeah, they can't go 9-7 or 10-6 in that division, and good luck. John Middlekauff, former NFL scout, 97.5 The Game in San Francisco. Finally, John, let's wrap it up for about 45 seconds here. Who's the leading two candidates to take over?
Well, I mean, I think you've heard a lot of names floated. They're definitely going to look internally. Jim Tomsula, a guy that was the interim coach when Mike Singletary was fired. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, is going to get an interview. And I think there's been some buzz and some interest on Josh McDaniels coming from New England. Obviously, it didn't go well in Denver, but, an offensive mind, a guy maybe that if he had a second chance, like Bill Belichick, from Cleveland, it didn't go well, got a second chance in New England. But, whoever they hire, I don't think the fan base is going to be very happy, Colin.
John, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Have a great day, Colin.
Putting style in black T-shirts. It's Colin Cowherd, the Thundering Herd Podcast.
You cannot miss today as a radio sports guy. Today is a great day to do sports radio in America. I love today. Woody Johnson's holding a press conference in New York. Our New York affiliate just took it live. I didn't think you really cared. But if he says something entertaining, which with the Jets is always a possibility, I'll replay some of it. Woody Johnson, chairman, CEO of the Jets, holding a presser. They fired Rex Ryan and the GM, John Idzik, who didn't even get the right to hire his own coach. Let me take 90 seconds of Woody Johnson just for fun. Go ahead.
What did you make? Yes, sir. When did you decide that you knew that you were going to fire both Rex and John?
Well, I made my final decision, I decided, after the season today. But, it became pretty apparent during the season as we progressed. The team was not getting better. And you kind of are what your, as Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. And so that kind of, it was kind of obvious that we had to make a change. It was obvious to me anyway.
How did that change?
Yeah, Manish, go ahead.
Can you speak to the impact that Rex made on the franchise during the 6-year run?
Well, it was a long run. You're right. It was a long run. I think he had a tremendous impact because I think he did, as you guys have said, he made the team relevant in some respects. He was very good with you guys. I think he gave it straight to you. That's Rex. He'll give it to you. Maybe not in the King's English at all times, but he was very good and very honest, and that's what we want. That's what I'm looking for. And, he did some very good coaching, and I knew that every Friday when I talked to him, I felt very confident. I feel bad at the beginning of the week, just like the players and maybe like you guys. But by Friday, I was good to go, and there's no way we're losing this game. And that's Rex. That's the way he is. Yes, sir.
All right, that's Woody Johnson, chairman, CEO of the New York Jets. Our New York affiliate wants to listen to the next 15 minutes. Have at it. All right, we do this every Monday during the football season, where Colin was right and where Colin was wrong. Let's get going.
Where Colin was wrong.
I taunted my audience 10 days ago. I said, how is Jim Harbaugh, who's won 71% of his games in the NFL and going to get several NFL offers, going to leave for a college gig, even a good one? Well, $8 million annually, you can't blame him. You can't turn it down. He's got total absolute power, almost to an unhealthy level with the school. It's his school. It's $8 million. He will win, and he will win quickly. Not in year one, but by year two. $8 million, the money talked.
Where Colin was right.
I predicted Johnny Manziel's immaturity, not just his size, would be, among many things, his primary undoing. You want to be a point guard in the NBA or a quarterback in the NFL, you got to be a grown-up day one. And we've all had friends like Johnny. They never grow up. He's an entitled frat boy from oil money who will never, ever be totally committed. Oh, he'll think he's committed, just like your buddy thinks he works hard putting in 42 hours a week. Johnny Manziel is a bust.
Where Colin was wrong.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are struggling. Their second 20-point home loss this weekend, Detroit booed at home. These players do not buy into David Blatt. A story today broke. There is increasing tensions between LeBron and the coach. At times, the Cavs are terrible defensively. Now Anderson Varejao is done for the year. Listen, I knew it would take time. But there are nights at home, they're getting smoked by 20. It is worse than I predicted.
Where Colin was right.
Rex Ryan got canned. The New York media bought Rex hook, line, and sinker. Likeable, jovial, like your uncle you want to have a beer with. Didn't think he had next-level sophistication like his dad. He clings to old cliches, guarantees, and resents the offense. To me, he's a coordinator. He doesn't get the big picture, but the tough New York media bought him, went all in until yesterday.
Where Colin was wrong.
I gotta just eat Colin Kaepernick, okay? I gotta eat my predictions. Listen, he didn't throw a fourth-quarter touchdown pass all season. Whoops. I generally don't even like scrambling quarterbacks. When he broke into this league, though, 6'5", could outrun safeties, rocket arm, and was winning big games. I said a year ago I thought he was the most difficult quarterback in the NFL to prepare for. I just didn't count fourth quarters. In the fourth quarter, he completes 58% of his throws and too often made silly mistakes.
Where Colin was right.
I said the Pac-12 was the best it's ever been. Already 3-0 in bowls, and favored in 5 of their next 5 remaining bowls. The quarterback play is several notches better than any other conference in college football. Cody Kessler at USC is an afterthought, and he had 39 touchdowns and 5 picks, and had the 4th highest QBR in the country. And stop with a nobody plays defense out there. Nobody plays defense anywhere in college football. The Pac-12 has 9 quarterbacks who will or eventually will play in the NFL. It is loaded this year.
Where Colin was wrong.
Only 4 of 8 NFL division winners I could predict. Not up to my usual lofty standards. I thought Dallas was going to be awful. I predicted 5-11. They're going to host a playoff game. I thought Seattle would pull back a little after the Super Bowl win. They're as hot as ever. New England, I knew. The Colts and Andrew Luck, I thought they'd win their division. I knew Green Bay would win theirs, or at least tie for it. But Detroit, Dallas, real shockers to me.
Where Colin was right.
Tony Romo finished the season with the NFL's highest completion percentage and QBR. We've been saying it for years. He's a mega talent, holding this franchise together like duct tape. In December, he had 12 touchdowns, a pick, and went 4-0. He'll probably never win a Super Bowl. Either did Dan Marino, and Peyton Manning has won in 16 years. Is Eli better than Peyton because he has double the Super Bowls? It's hard to win playoff games. The great coaches struggled to win playoff games. Yet Mark Sanchez has 4 playoff wins. Some of it's luck, some of it's timing, some of it's who you play, some of it's your defense. Come on. Tony Romo is an elite top 8 quarterback, and he has been for 5 years. Where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. Woody Johnson is the chairman and CEO of the New York Jets. They fired Rex Ryan today. They fired John Idzik today. Bears did the same. Mark Trestman out. Atlanta did the same with their coach. Mike Smith, really good guy, out. So Woody Johnson said we weren't getting better. Rex moved the needle in a lot of ways and had great influence, but we didn't win enough, and we were getting worse, not better.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
Timmy Hasselbeck in studio. What up, my man? What's going on?
What's up? Can you please stop acting like you're down in rural Florida, like you're like one of the swamp people or something? Like, call it what it is. You're in some gated community. Your second home. You probably flew a private jet down there. I mean, can we paint a picture that's like somewhat realistic here? I mean, honestly,
the gate is broken, so I'm not considering it a gated community this morning.
So do you use the same house help in Florida that you do in Connecticut?
You're a jerk.
You have different staffs at each house.
Oh, my God. You're just obnoxious.
Meanwhile, like, I'm looking at these guys in the control room. It looks like they haven't been fed in who knows how long. You know, you're not here. All of a sudden, these guys are basically, they're emaciated, dude. I mean, it's like I don't know how they're going to survive.
What do you make of an NFL franchise? You know how hard it is to win in this league. You know Coughlin personally. 71% wins. He's going to Michigan. Do you agree with what the Niners are doing?
No, I think it's really dumb. I think it's really dumb. I think no matter what the personalities are, and if guys aren't getting along, ultimately you realize. I mean, how many times we heard somebody say this year, it's a bottom line business. It's about wins and losses. You've done wins and losses. They won a lot of games, man.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that, they got there, kind of by way of Mike Nolan in, a disaster with that situation, to Mike Singletary, a disaster with that situation. I would just appreciate the fact that, you have a coach that maybe rubs some people the wrong way, does things a little bit differently, maybe doesn't get along with the general manager. I would just appreciate the fact that he's been able to win a bunch of games with different quarterbacks. That's
in that
hard
division.
to do.
Oh, in that division.
Another great point. In a division that's really hard, which, by the way, and with a quarterback that you don't even like now. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I know. Listen, I sometimes
you don't know what to say. Can you replay that, guys? You don't even know what to say.
I don't. It's just not working. And now let me ask you this. I've never seen a Week 17 that meant less. I mean, yesterday I watched Cowboys-Washington just to see how dysfunctional Jay Gruden's team has been. But I was saying this earlier. You've been in NFL buildings. Everybody loves the divorce. But after about 3 of them, no woman wants to marry you. The Jets now need another GM and another coach and more coordinators. And now Chicago needs another coach and another GM and more coordinators. Would a top candidate... I mean, Jerry Reese has whiffed on 2 or 3 first-rounders. I mean, where's David Wilson? Yet they've only had 3 GMs in 36 years. Do you think the Jets should have just cleaned house?
I have no problem with the move from John Idzik. With the Rex Ryan situation, I think he's probably learned a lot about being a head coach, and so this stretch, I think he'd be in a situation where it's hard to maybe take the lessons learned in the first, at the current place where he is. I think it'd be easier to go somewhere else and implement some of the things that you maybe learned from, last time around in a different place. The change of scenery dynamic. I guess when you look at it for Rex, I just know this, and I've said this to you multiple times. He's a really good coach. And I know there are things from an organization standpoint. And most successful NFL coaches are ridiculously organized. And he doesn't appear to be that way. But I think that can change over time after learning from your mistakes. So I just don't know who the Jets are hiring that is going to totally change that franchise. Now I'll say this. If you're the Jets and you're going to fire Rex Ryan, which they did, you're not interested in Jim Harbaugh? I mean, how about that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Listen, I said it. I was wrong on Harbaugh. I've never seen a coach win 71% of his games, will have offers, and say, I'm going to go back to college. Now, part of that is the Big Ten has a new network coming up, and everybody's going to bid on it. So much like the Pac-12 a couple of years ago, these Big Ten schools, Tim, are all going to be getting for the next decade $40 million checks. Purdue will get one, Michigan gets one, Michigan State, Wisconsin. So they're looking at it thinking, we're going to have this surplus of cash for a decade with our new TV contract. Why not double the coach salary? But for Harbaugh, just look at Jim now. Do you think it's a mistake? Do you think he should have stayed in the NFL, Tim?
Well, I don't think it's a mistake when you're going to, how much money he's going to make, $50 million,
$48 million, 6 years.
Yeah. So I can't ever say that. I mean, that's like your type of money. You know what I mean?
Come on. I've only got one staff.
Here's what I would say. For him, I do think that there was an element, and I think that it's why he probably slow played this thing as long as he could, that you can always go back to college. The move, if you get fired as an NFL coach to bounce back to college, is an easy move. And you were kind of referencing, these jobs and, do guys want these jobs when, when guys get hired and they get 2 years or a year and then they get fired, there's only 32 NFL jobs. And so guys will take them. Guys will take the Jacksonville job. Guys will take the Oakland job. Remember, Buddy Nick said in Buffalo, this is a good job. I mean, the reality is there's 32 of them. Guys want them, and they pay you pretty well. And if you can have success, in those spots, they pay you really well. So, I don't think that Jim wanted to go back to Michigan. I think you said earlier he wasn't a Michigan man at 4.5, but he's a Michigan man at 6.5 or 8,
sure,
whatever it is, right? I mean, the ultimately, I think that it's something he probably didn't want to do. But if the other offers were half as much money, which, by the way, is still a ton of money.
But by the way, Tim, and half as much money, and they don't have a quarterback. You can't win in this league without one.
Well, to me, that's what this day is all about. We sit here and we talk about all these coaches getting fired. Here's how this works. If you have a quarterback and he plays well, then you have a job the next day. If you don't have a quarterback or you have a quarterback that's underperforming, you're gone. It's plain and simple. Jay Cutler is getting paid over $1 million a game. He had a bad year, so they're gone. I mean, that's how it works.
Well, think about this. Tampa and Tennessee have the first 2 picks. You and I both know Jameis Winston's going 1 to Tampa, and Marcus Mariota's going 2 to the Titans, because you have to roll the dice there. Listen, you can get Leonard Williams at USC. J.J. Watt can't get you to the playoffs. So the first 2 picks are going to be quarterbacks, right?
I think so. I think this Cutler situation probably warrants some monitoring, and be interesting to see how moving him would work. And he's probably more likely to be there now that, Emery and Trestman are gone. But I could see him being a guy where, you're willing to maybe, a new coach would say, look, I want the job. I don't want Jay Cutler. If we move Jay Cutler and get, an earlier pick in the draft, and we'll find a quarterback. I could see someone, trying to go that route.
Yeah, 30 seconds left. Anything else you want to clobber me with today? Because I was right on a lot of stuff. So I had a week off. Anything you want to just...
I'm just glad that after 17 weeks of you blowing in the wind, on Colin Kaepernick, this week he's great. This week, I don't know what I was thinking. Never mind, the Instagram doesn't matter. And now I'm okay with the headphones and this guy. I'm just glad that finally you've taken a stance on Kaepernick.
Yep, needs to grow up, inconsistent, gets worse in games late. Good talking to you, buddy.
Good talking to you. Hey, stay away from those Gators.
It's incredible down here, man. Generally when you golf and you hit a ball into the rough, you go fetch it. Here, you just give it up to nature. Like if you shank one here, it's like, nature won. There's no reason to search for a golf ball here. So I was in the Everglades yesterday, and it's amazing how casual they are with alligators. There's there's a gator. How long is it? 18 feet. Really? You can jump out of the water 3 feet, does it regularly. So why'd you stop the boat? Only place in America. 18-foot alligator. Let's cozy up to it and turn the motor off. In the state I'm from, 18-foot alligator, start the car, rev it up, put it in drive, and go straight the other way.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
All right, so we have the NFL playoffs. Because of injuries, this league can be, at this time of the year, who's the healthiest? Who is the healthiest? So the wild card round, Saturday, 4:30 in the afternoon, Arizona goes to Carolina. Gut feeling, take the home team, they're healthier. Cam Newton at home against an Arizona team that inexplicably is here. Baltimore at Pittsburgh, I'm going to roll the dice, go with the upset. I said 2 months ago, Baltimore was protecting Flacco at a great level. He was having his best year. They were running the football. I think Baltimore is the dark horse Super Bowl team. They're going to go to Pittsburgh and win. Cincinnati's got better players than Indianapolis, and they're really running the ball well. But I'll take Andrew Luck. Quarterbacks matter, especially in the playoffs. I'll take the Colts. Detroit at Dallas, I think it's really close. I think Detroit's front can go toe-to-toe with Dallas's premier offensive line. Now, Detroit on the road, it's not the same team, so I'll take the Cowboys here. So I think Carolina will go to Seattle, where the Seahawks, well-rested and healthy, will prevail. Dallas will go to Green Bay. It will be close, but I'll take Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau to beat that Cowboy secondary. I think the Ravens will go to New England, and it will be close. But this New England team is the most complete, in my opinion, in the league. And I think the Colts will go to Denver. I'm going to go with the upset. I think the Colts, healthier, will beat Denver. I don't feel great about it, but I'm not going to go chalk. It's not the way the playoffs work. I think Baltimore is going to surprise people, and I think Indianapolis could. In the NFC, I don't see the upsets. I just think Seattle's a notch above, and Green Bay at home is as well, and I don't think Detroit can win a road playoff game yet. Then I eventually think the Colts go to New England, and New England thumps them. And Green Bay goes to Seattle, and Seattle thumps them. Then New England faces Seattle in the Super Bowl, and New England late in the game with a very narrow win. I think this is the best team Bill Belichick has had in years. There you go. Listen to this story. This is interesting. There is growing tension within the Cleveland Cavaliers organization between the players and Coach David Blatt. Now, there has been a disconnect for some time, but it's increasing. Brian Windhorst, who's been around LeBron since high school, said this.
There's a growing tension in the Cavs organization between the players and Coach David Blatt. There's been a disconnect there that has been increasing, and it may be something that the organization has to deal with, either giving David Blatt a vote of confidence or maybe looking at the position again. They've completely abandoned David Blatt's offensive system. LeBron has admitted he's taken over point guard without even really consulting David Blatt, and as these games play out recently, you can see their effort level, especially defensively and coming in and out of huddles, is eroding.
Yeah, defensively, there are nights, even at home, they're terrible. So the team has too much talent. Now, Anderson Varejao blew out his Achilles, out for the year. Kyrie Irving, out, knee injury. So they don't have a full team. But when you watch their energy level, you can just watch body language. You can see it. I saw Dallas play Washington this weekend, and on one of the touchdowns for the Cowboys, DeMarco Murray, Washington players were standing. You can see when teams are all in, and you can see when they're not. Washington, there's a disconnect, players and Jay Gruden. There is a disconnect, David Blatt and the Cavaliers roster, and you can see it regularly. Getting a lot of emails. Colin, you were so wrong on Jim Harbaugh. Yes, I believed that a 71% winning coach in the toughest division in football would stay in the NFL, since it's always worked that way. And when Michigan said, we're not offering 8, we're offering 6, those reports aren't true. I figured it wasn't enough. But now the reports are Jimmy Harbaugh's getting $8 million per. He's a Michigan guy. No, he wasn't a Michigan guy at $4 million a year. He's a Michigan guy at $8 million per year. And I think it's a great hire. I think Michigan needed to wake its program up. They're in the same division now with Ohio State. So even if Harbaugh's a success, he's not going to beat Urban Meyer for 6 straight years. So what it really creates, it's sort of an Auburn, Alabama thing, is that one of them's getting knocked out. It's going to be great for the sport. I think he's going to win a lot of games. I do not think Jim Harbaugh stays there 25 years. I think he stays there 4 or 5, builds the program back up to a top 10, and then another great NFL job comes out. It's like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll wanted to prove, I can win it all. Jim Harbaugh, hyper-competitive, is not going to spend the next 24 years in Ann Arbor. But he'll stay there 5, build a program, they'll be terrific, and he can win big games. He's not going to win in his first year. I mean, he'll win 8 games. It's the Big Ten. And they've got some players. But they don't have a special quarterback needed at this point to beat an SEC or a Pac-12 team. And he didn't win overnight at Stanford. So give him a year. They'll win 7, 8 games. They have a very small recruiting class this year, only 12, and it won't be a great class. So he's going to have to win in the first 2 years with Brady Hoke's guys.
Technology gone bad. Gone bad. This is the Thundering Herd podcast.
I don't understand what the San Francisco 49ers are doing. I don't get it. In 4 years, Harbaugh won 44 regular season games. In 8 years before him, they won 46. He turned around the University of San Diego, Stanford, and the Niners overnight, and he'll do the same at Michigan. 13-3, 11-4, 12-4. This year, with half his defense hurt or suspended, he still went 8-8 in the league's toughest division. And they want him out. I don't get it. According to Adam Schefter, there are still 3 teams trying to get Jim Harbaugh. Michigan says they have him. He works for Fox Sports on their college football. He's the author of a book I just finished a month ago called The Quarterback, The Making of Modern Quarterbacks. My buddy Bruce Feldman joining us in the herd on ESPN Radio. Let's start with this. Michigan Bruce only has 12 scholarships, so he in the first 2 years is primarily going to have to win with Brady Hoke's recruits. If he lands this Michigan job, and we think it's 99% sure, he will probably in the next month try to find some great young quarterback like a Josh Rosen who is verbally committed to UCLA, or a Ricky Town who's verbally committed to USC. Do you believe there's a quarterback out there he could get? Because in writing your book, you met a lot of them. You know how the game is played. Does he have a chance to find the next Andrew Luck here in the next month?
You know, Colin, I think it's a long shot because of the time frame. The 2 guys you mentioned, Josh Rosen, you know, great physical talent from Manhattan Beach, California. He's an early enrollee kid. So, you know, it's not like we're talking about to get to signing day. These kids are going to be in school by then. Ricky Town, another Southern California kid, he's already in place. I don't think Josh Rosen's personality would be a great fit with Jim Harbaugh's style, to be honest. I think that would be kind of a reach. The kid that Michigan does have committed, Alex Malzone, he's a baseball player. He's a tough kid. He's a smart kid. I think it's going to be up to Jim Harbaugh to decide if he's the guy he thinks is best suited for that. You know, he's going to hire assistants who, some of them have already been recruiting people for college football in this cycle. We'll have some people. I think if you're a top quarterback, unless you are firmly committed and say, okay, you know what, I believe in the system I'm committed to, the staff I'm committed to, knowing Jim Harbaugh's track record, I think you have to give him, you know, your attention to see what his pitch might be, especially with, you know, remember, Michigan's a great education. It's a huge program with great facilities. And now you're talking about this, who I would say one of the 3 best coaches in college football, and Jim Harbaugh, and he knows the NFL system. He could get you ready.
You know, Bruce, I was saying this 10 minutes ago. It is odd to me that a defending champ that hasn't lost in 2 years is a fairly staggering underdog to Oregon, a team that just lost their best corner, and that's fairly significant for a team that likes to throw the ball down the field. You're going to be at the Florida State-Oregon press conference today. What is the vibe? Is the vibe that Oregon should trounce Florida State?
Not here. I mean, I talked to Jameis Winston about being an underdog yesterday, and, you know, one of the things he said is, look, I would have loved to have played against Ifo Ekpeolamo, you know, the consensus All-American cornerback, because I feel like every day I go up against guys, you know, P.J. Williams, who rattled off Jalen Ramsey, and these other big-time defensive backs that are probably every bit as talented, maybe better athletes even than Ifo. You know, and the kid who's going to be taking over for him, you know, while it's a longer, lankier kid, has limited experience. Who knows how much confidence he's going to have? You know, the leadership is lacking. I mean, you know, I know Florida State has struggled in their games, but I mean, I just saw Dalvin Cook walk in here, and that guy's one of the best freshman running backs in college football. I mean, this team has been there. They've won a national title. They've rallied from being behind. I think
Florida State's going to win this game. I really do. And I think that they have a ton of athletes. As Jimbo Fisher said yesterday, this is the healthiest Florida State has been all year. And I think that's a fact. That and the fact that they have done it and they have complete belief that they're going to win this game. I don't think if anything, I think it just gives them, more reason to probably take it out on people and feel like, oh, you're doubting us. I mean, it's more of the us against the world vibe that I think they're buying into.
Fox Sports College Football, Bruce Feldman, our friend, author of The Quarterback, The Making of Modern Quarterbacks, a very compelling read on the game behind the game. You're at the Florida State-Oregon game. The Pac-12 is now 3-0, will be favored in their 5 remaining bowl games. I thought it was a great year for the conference. There is a sense with Harbaugh probably going to Michigan. There is a sense now, you know how the game works. The major agents, they're the ones that get everybody sized up. I keep hearing Jim Mora's name for NFL jobs, Bruce. You live in California. I say every big job that comes up, NFL college, Jim Mora's name is up. Is that just hot air, or do you buy it?
I buy that. I said this a couple of weeks ago, that I thought of all the guys who are out there who are college coaches, he is one of maybe one or two guys, and I would probably put Brian Kelly maybe, in there as well, the Notre Dame coach, but not even as much as Jim Mora, as a candidate who could be ripe to be plucked away by an NFL team. Here's a couple of reasons why. One, he has, in a short time, dominated the USC rivalry. They've handled USC pretty convincingly, whenever they play at the end of the year. Well, then 3 months later, come signing day, USC pretty much still gets whoever they want. And that's not going to get any easier for him. And now USC is going to be dealing with, full scholarship allotment as opposed to 15. So I just think, I'm not sure he can do that much more at UCLA. Brett Hundley's moving on to the NFL, so you're going to have a new quarterback. Maybe Josh Rosen, the incoming freshman, will be that guy. I mean, right now, there's no, it's not like they're going to hit the ground running with whoever takes over. I mean, I could definitely see him being an attractive candidate, especially to the Niners. I mean, look, there's a lot of interesting places I think that he could end up that I think are very desirable to him. And, even at UCLA, which is, I know his family's very comfortable out here, UCLA still has some shortcomings, facilities-wise, and there's some challenges at UCLA. It's not coaching at USC. It's a different place. And, I'm not saying for sure he's going to leave, but I think he's going to listen.
Finally, Bruce, I am surprised by Harbaugh leaving. Historically, Michigan doesn't spend $8 million on a coach, and they don't kind of do it the way others do it. They've always had football's important, but they've almost looked down at Ohio State, who is more of a football factory. How surprised are you that Harbaugh leaves the NFL, winning 71% of his games, to go back to Michigan? How surprised were you?
I'm not surprised that Michigan took a big swing. I think Urban Meyer changed the game in the Big Ten. He raised the bar. Urban Meyer is set to dominate the Big Ten. I'm sorry, if you get Dan Mullen or Kyle Whittingham or Greg Schiano in there, that's not going to woo people and kind of change, be a counterpunch. Jim Harbaugh could do that. He could go toe-to-toe with Urban Meyer. So for Michigan to make a big, big statement, they're going to be flushed with a ton of money coming in from, with Michigan football, from boosters, from so many different things. On top of it, let's keep in mind that the Big Ten, TV deal has come up in a year. How much more money could the conference command if Michigan's got Jim Harbaugh and is seen at the, as a powerhouse again? So from that reason, it makes a ton of sense. I think the thing that surprised me a month ago, everything I'd heard from sources and people, especially in NFL circles, was that Jim Harbaugh was going to stay in the NFL, and so more credit to the AD there and the people in Michigan who had made a good sound pitch. And I think that Jim Harbaugh is in a situation now where, from talking to people who coach with him, they said they thought as much as the challenge to go head to head against Urban Meyer would be as much of appeal as it would just to be going home and to save the program, so to speak.
Bruce Feldman, go buy his book, The Quarterback, The Making of Modern Quarterbacks. Read it on one flight. It was compelling stuff and takes you behind the curtain of the quarterback game now running college and high school football. Good talking to you, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Colin.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
So I just got a text from Bill Simmons. He said, my friend cousin Sal is 15-0-3 on SportsCenter with NFL picks the past 6 weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Cousin Sal's 15-0-3 on SportsCenter. I'm still mad at Bill Simmons, who interviewed the great Larry David, creator of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And Larry David starts telling Bill Simmons that he listens to my show, and Simmons is virtually flummoxed and can't, for the life of him, figure out why. I'm still somewhat bitter about the Bill Simmons-Larry David exchange.
Oh, so you watch the studio shows?
I watch them when I work out, yeah.
Really? Which ones do you watch?
I love Colin.
Colin Cowherd?
Colin Cowherd, yeah.
Interesting.
It's not that interesting. America loves Colin Cowherd. That
Interesting.
was a 2-second pause. Play it again one more time. It's a 2-second pause. He can't get his arms around it.
I love Colin.
Colin Cowherd?
Colin Cowherd, yeah.
Interesting.
Not really. Interesting is something that never happens. Like if I said to you, yesterday, I took a sledgehammer and I beat myself on the head with it. You'd be like,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that never happens. But if I said to you, yesterday I had a bowl of Cheerios, you wouldn't say interesting because you do that all the time. So Bill's reaction is
interesting,
meaning he doesn't think anybody listens to my show.
Colin Cowherd.
Johnny Manziel threw a party this weekend. Of course he did. Browns players went, then were either late or didn't show up to meetings the following day. Jimmy Haslam owns the Cleveland Browns. He was not happy with it.
I think this is the ultimate team game, and I think a player who can't show up for meetings, can't make practice, can't make weightlifting, disrespects himself. They disrespect the team, the coaches, the staff, the fans. If they can't grow up and they can't be responsible for their teammates and the coaches and our great fans, then they won't be with Cleveland Browns.
Again, Cleveland, into a windy outdoor environment, the AFC North, you went and got a smaller quarterback with an average arm who has zero self-awareness. And we've all had a friend like Johnny Manziel. We all have. He finally has a kid, but still spends money on video games. Hey, it's my life. No, it's now your kid's life, because he needs you not to run into traffic every day. Johnny Manziel just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who I respect, and he said, here's the thing nobody wants to say about Johnny Manziel. He's just not that smart. And remember, Johnny Manziel told you what he was. Remember when he said this? I'm not going to change.
I'm not going to change who I am for anybody. Am I going to live in a shell, or am I just going to hide from everybody and not do anything? I don't think that's the way I should live my life, and I'm not going to do it.
He told you, Cleveland, I'm not going to change for anybody. He also told you, nothing wrong with partying.
I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I'm going out. Everybody on the weekends goes out and enjoys their life and lives their life. Everybody goes out and does that. I'm not doing anything that's putting myself in a harmful situation. I'm not doing anything that's putting my team or jeopardizing what I do here throughout the week or what I'm looking forward to doing this season.
No, everybody that's a franchise quarterback does not do that. But Johnny said, I've got a right to enjoy myself.
If I want to go back home and spend time with my friends or go out and enjoy my weekends, I absolutely have the right to do that.
I have the right to do a lot of things But as an adult, I don't. My favorite clip, though, and this is interesting, NFL games are on the weekends, right? Johnny Manziel said, hey, weekends are me time.
That's 2 days out of the week, and there's 5 to 6 other days that I'm here at this building going through my playbook, working out.
He is an unmitigated disaster. I mean, he is a disaster. Small. He ran a 4.68 40. Blaine Gabbert had a better time than that. I mean, there's so many reasons it's not going to work. Size, maturity, coachability, average arm, Windy City. He's going to get hurt. He likes to ad-lib. But, you know, the NFL's done this. All the numbers are there. All the measurables were there with Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel, and nobody wants to listen. The Denver Broncos once drafted Maurice Clarett, who ran a 5.3 40 at the Combine. I mean, that's slow for a defensive end. But football's an emotional sport, and people get emotional. Johnny Manziel's 5'11.5", average arm, ad-libs, hard to coach, wildly immature and entitled. What says I'm going to make him a franchise quarterback for a decade? What do Brady, Manning, Eli, Luck, Rivers, Russell Wilson, what do they all have in common? They're grown-ups. Weekends are my time. No, they're the Browns' time now. I get a right to party. So does everybody. You got a right to do a lot, but when you're an adult, you got to give some of that stuff up. I'm in Florida with my kids. I have a right to leave them in a hotel and party all day. It's not what you do. I'm not rooting against him, but it is, I mean, you talk about where Colin was right. It is happening at an even faster clip.
Where Colin was right.
Yeah. Now, I'll say this. This is according to Adam Schefter, and it may mean nothing. But NFL teams, including the Bears, Jets, and Raiders, are continuing to make overtures to see if they can get Harbaugh to stay in the NFL, according to NFL sources telling ESPN's Adam Schefter that. I don't think they'll get him at this point. I am surprised it took this long. Why the Bears, Jets, and Raiders weren't on this 3 weeks ago. I mean, the Jets knew week 9 they were making this move. Maybe that's why they're the Jets.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.